Super. So we have got everybody settled in now. So I think we can look to start this session on savings and investments. Thank you so much for giving us the most precious thing that you have, that is your time this evening, coming along and gifting yourselves that hour to learn more about this super important topic that we've just said is ever changing. Matt has just alluded to the fact that there is so much going on right now with inflation, interest rates. So the more that we can educate ourselves and be put in touch with people that know this stuff inside out, the better. So we will run through very briefly what we're going to talk about whilst everyone settles in. We would love you to come and join us in person or live streaming in London at the VSGD and Get Set for Vet event, which is on the 15th of October at Code Node in London. There's loads and loads of cool sessions, lots of things that are applicable to the veterinary finance space as well. So we've got Green Flags for Employment that Paul Horwood, that is one of the VetYou founders, is going to be sitting on. I am sitting on the freelancer panel too, giving you insights as to what it is like being a freelancer, which ties in nicely to next Tuesday's webinar too, where we're joined by accounting company Gorilla Accounting, talking all things freelance finances. So we just wanted to give that a quick plug because we love connecting with our community. You can come and connect with us online, virtually, or you can come and see us in person. Ruth will be there, I'll be there, Ebony will be there, and Paul will be there as well. So plenty of opportunity to talk in person. So if you've been coming along to many of these webinars, we'd love to come and meet you in real life too. Or if you want to join in the live stream, there's some really cool sessions. And I believe the early bird price is still going. There's still a few early bird tickets. You can see on their website too, all the awesome sessions. There's something for everyone, for students, for those that are staying, those that are thinking about diversifying, and those that are just wanting to find a little bit more from their career too, which obviously ties in well with what we do at VetYou. Speaking of which, I'm going to hand over to Matt, who is one of the original VetYou founders, to tell you a little bit more about what VetYou's about, who we are, why we're here, and then we will move on to our fantastic guest speaker this evening.
Hello. Yeah, good evening, everybody. Well, listen, VetYou was founded because there are some things that we do really, really well here in the UK. State funerals, we're pretty good at those. But one thing that we're not very good at is opening up about our personal finance. And it really became apparent to myself and Paul, Ebony and Katie, that people just weren't talking about their personal finance enough. And in this changing world that we're in, the changing economic climate, and also the changing veterinary world, where we're seeing new ways of running veterinary businesses, we're seeing corporate veterinary businesses alongside private practice, and we're seeing the opportunity to diversify and find new ways of bringing in income, that actually the one thing that was being missed was people understanding their personal finances and then really preparing themselves, not just for now, but also for the future. Because if you get your personal finance right, absolutely, you can have a more fulfilling career, whatever your aspiration is to be, whether it's to be a multimillionaire or simply just to be the best clinical vet you can. Understanding your personal finances is going to be crucial to your success. And so VetYou was founded on three premises. One, the first point of call is always to look after your health, and how can financial products help you to support healthcare. The second area was around your income. And we all ultimately need to make sure that we get a payday once a week, once a month, once a year, so that we can cover those essential bills and we can cover our lifestyle. And so understanding ways of protecting our income, again, was really, really important. And the third area that you really want to encourage people to think about is about their future. How does it look saving for our future? With things like pensions, how can we protect our future, maybe with policies around life or health? And the topic of tonight, how can we think about our future by saving a little bit, whether it's that rainy day account or whether it's a larger sum of money for that big life purchase. I think it's really, really important we think about how savings and investments can affect our future. So you've got the VetYou team there in front of you. We have all had a very diverse career. We're all veterinary surgeons, but we've all come to this area of personal finance through a different journey, both through our personal and professional lives. And I think our individual experiences really will resonate with different people on this call. And our individual journey was also the conduit that brought us all together, wanting to make sure that other people either had some of the breaks and some of the lucky connections and insight that some of us have had, and also avoided some of the pitfalls that all four of us have had at some point during our personal financial journey. So that's why VetYou exists. We don't do this alone. We work with a great team of third-party consultants and advisors and financial advisors that can help bring the best knowledge. But what the VetYou team can overlay is that real understanding of you as somebody working in the veterinary profession and the challenges that are affecting you and your personal finance. So whatever your concern or challenge or question, please feel free to reach out. One of the VetYou team can certainly give you their personal opinion. And even more importantly, we can then find you the right professional advice to help you make those big decisions in life to the best of your ability. So thank you so much. And I'm going to pass back to Katie.
Thank you so much, Matt. And so often we put pressure on ourselves, don't we, to expect to know this stuff at this high level. Like, we are all intelligent people, you know, we studied for our qualifications, whichever place in the profession that we're at. And actually, what we want our pet owners to do is to go to the people that are trained and understand these concepts as well. We want them to know the day-to-day care of their pets, or their animals, their whichever area of the profession that we're in, but we want them to come to us to make sure that we're giving them the correct advice. And the same thing goes to the financial professionals that we work with too. You know, at the end of the day, they've done the study, they've done the qualifications, and you'll see certainly in this session as well, when we talk about savings and investments, these are things we can't afford to miss. You know, these are things where if we don't educate ourselves as to things like interest and go to people that know these topics, we could be missing out on a serious amount further down the line. So again, like Matt said, we came together because we're passionate about these as topics. And I think it's something we could all talk about all day long, but we won't. We're going to dive into the information very shortly. So we've done a quick introduction from ourselves, the team at VetYou. We wanted to just quickly run a poll to find out who it is that we have in the room with us right now. So again, if you know nothing on this subject, that is absolutely fine, right? So we've just put a poll up that is just asking, like, where are you with savings and investments? So we've got, I have no idea where to start, please help me. I know a little bit, but I'd like some help to know the next steps. I've researched a lot previously. I've got some things, but I need a bit more help. I'm a pro looking for some top tips, or you sat somewhere else on that board. And if you are, let us know in the chat box. That is absolutely fine. So we've got a fairly even spread, although it's moving now. So we've got about 20% saying, I have no idea where to start. Help. That is absolutely fine. That's why we run these sessions. Just like we said, we would not expect someone to know the ins and outs of a medical topic in the veterinary space. They'd come to us, right? So that is absolutely fine. We've got 39%, I know a little bit, but keen to know the next steps. And the other 39% have researched a lot. I have some things in place. Amazing. So we have a real mixture this evening. Thank you so much, everybody, for taking part in that poll as well. I know certainly Matt will agree with me too. Both of us have sat through plenty of VetYou webinars with many financial professionals now, and we always pick up something new. There's always something different. There's always something additional to learn. So even if you know quite a lot already, come with the mindset of, what is it that I don't know? And I guarantee you'll pick up something new. And yep, get your questions in the chat box. No such thing as a stupid one. So our next guest, we are so pleased to welcome back. Ruth always has absolutely phenomenal feedback from our community. She is always very, very kind with her time and her expertise to make sure that nobody ever feels like they're asking a stupid question. People come to us via VetYou and go, oh my goodness, I don't know anything. And Ruth is one of the kindest, most lovely people to say, that is absolutely fine. Like, that is why you come and you ask for help. Like, there is no judgment from any of us at VetYou. And Ruth is one of those people that absolutely makes everyone feel heard and listened to. You can see a couple of fantastic testimonials that we've had on there. We'd absolutely agree that she's a financial advisor with a difference, because she is so lovely and so kind with the time, so encouraging to everybody. Like, you are in for a treat with Ruth this evening. She is going to make this very understandable. If there is anything that you need to call out, you're like, oh my goodness, she's using an abbreviation that I hadn't come across. What is that? Get it in the chat box. Let's open it up. Let's answer, because again, you won't be the only one. So with that, it is my pleasure to hand over to Ruth Downs, financial advisor, to take us through the session on savings and investments. Ruth.
Yay! Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. So good evening, everybody. Today we are going to be talking about everything savings and investing. This is a real hot topic right now amongst all of my clients. Inflation is a new high of 9.8% that was in August 2022. I will be coming on to about inflation a little bit, so you can't find me yet. But yeah, I will be coming on to explain about that. But people want their money to do the best to keep pace with inflation, and no doubt that is why a lot of you are on the call today. So there's a lot we're going to go through tonight, and I've got to keep it quite top level, though, to make sure that number one, I get to cover as much as I can to as many people as I can, and number two, so I don't make your head hurt by going into too much depth in any one specific area. So it's important to go step by step, and I don't expect you to go away and understand absolutely everything that I've gone through tonight. Even if you take away 5% of this, I'll be impressed. But no, you can contact me afterwards, and if you want to chat, email into VetYou, and we can organise a chat to go through all this stuff on a one-to-one basis, and it's completely free of charge. So on the screen currently is my why. I want to explain who you're dealing with today. Finances are really personal, so I think it's only fair that I get personal with you. So if anyone wants to know my full why, I've got my website, which is my name. It's ruthdowns.com, and you can read more on that. But put simply, it is my mum. Way years ago in Cape Town, she had needed major heart surgery. They didn't think she was going to make it, and I had to look into her finances. When I reached out to financial advisors, they didn't really want to help me because I had nothing to invest, and I was just looking for advice, and they said I wouldn't understand it in the time frame. Oh, that grinded my gears. It still does, actually. And I believe that it's never about how complicated something is. It's just the way that it's explained. So that is why I do what I do. So when they say there's no such thing as a silly question, there really isn't, because I always see myself those many years ago when I reached out. And plus, would you make me feel silly if I brought my cats in and there was something wrong with them, explaining to me? I don't think that you would. So I would never, ever do the same to anyone else. So the way I work with my clients is I never tell them what to do, but I will give them that option so that we work together to figure out what the best solution is going to be for you. So next slide, please, Katie. It's who do I work with? So I work with a company called St. James's Place. They're a FTSE 100 company, which means they're one of the largest 100 companies within the UK. We currently look after 154 billion worth of client funds under management. But what does that mean to you? It means that people trust us to look after their financial futures. It was founded in 1992, so it's been going a while, and we've got a client retention rate of 95%. And if there's one thing that my clients say about me, it's that I genuinely care about my clients and helping them. So next slide, please. This should be, yeah, here we go. Some of the questions that I get asked. And if you just want to have a read of some of those, I'm sure that they're going to be on your list as well. I've included some time to go through at the end some of the specific questions you may have, but please put in the chat if there's anything that you want answered. And I promise you we will get to them. Like Katie will message or stop where I am to ask the question, or we'll go through at the end. But I will be answering all of these that are on screen today. Next slide, please. So step number one is the financial questionnaire. I give this to all of my clients, and I've shared it with VetYou, and I'm sure the wonderful Katie will have downloaded some magic link. It's way above my tech capabilities, but she'll let you know where that may be. Look, I'm a straight down to earth Mancunian girl, so excuse the saying, but you can't put the cart in front of the horse. And there are some basics that you need to put in place first before we look at where you can save or invest. The financial questionnaire, it doesn't take long to fill in, and it'll help you to answer how much should I or can I invest? and what factors should you be aware of? Do you know what disposable income you have at the end of every month? Disposable income is what you have left when you've paid all of your bills and expenses every month. If you're employed, you get paid a certain amount into your bank, and you have a monthly or sometimes annually essential bills like gas and electricity, council tax, buildings insurance, etc., that needs to get paid. And also you have discretionary bills, which is things like, well, if you're like me, Netflix, Amazon, gym memberships, some takeaways that you might have now and again. So those are discretionary things you don't necessarily have to pay, like need, but yeah, Katie, I can see you with your coffee. No judgment. This questionnaire, it will honestly help you work out how much you have left over every single month. And it'll also help you to become more mindful of where your money goes. Like, I've got no problem how much you spend on coffee, as long as you are aware of how much you spend. And it's actually helped some of my clients, for instance, cancel unnecessary bills that they don't even know that they've still been paying just by going through this process. So it will help you to work out how much spare you could put towards any saving and investment plans you might want to put in place. But it's also important to keep it updated, especially with the steep rise in household bills, which is another hot topic on everyone's lips right now. So more on that in a minute. Next slide, please. So I want to talk about emergency funds. It has many names. It's rainy day, there's a comfort fund, yeah, whatever you want to call it. But before I put any policy in place, something I will ask you is, do you have one? We all need one for, you know, in case anything happens. I'm not going to lie, but when we had the big, you know, steep increase in petrol costs, I had to dip slightly into mine and then had to make amendments to make sure I could keep up with that. You've got the big disasters that like, well, as you can see, floods. We've had the storms that hit that, you know, trees were on cars breaking down. With your car, boilers, and then unexpected household bills. There's so much stuff that you might need an emergency fund for. And I promise you, my clients thank me for it after they've had it. I've made them set it up, and then they've needed to dip into it. They're like, I'm so glad I had that because this happened. So protecting you is number one. And what we say as financial advisors on the whole is to have 3 times your total expenditure, so that's all your bills, essential and discretionary, together in a month, round about 3 times that. So if you have £1,000 in bills, I would like to see at least 3,000 set aside in case of any emergencies that may happen. Next slide, please, Katie. Now, I've included this on because it seems to be that a lot of people are talking about especially when it comes to budgeting, is to make sure that they have something. Everything that's happening with the energy bills, it is quite crazy. Now, people are saying, do I need to apply for the discount that they're going to get? No, you don't. And I've got some, as you'll be able to see on the screen here, I clicked on the government link, and on the left, how you'll get your discount. It is, or if you own your own property and you pay obviously your energy bills, the discount will be applied to your monthly household electricity bill, for instance, for the 6 months starting next month in October. And then £66 in October and November, and then £67 December, January, February and March. And once again, you can go to the government link to find out more about that. And I included, actually, my energy supplier is on the on the right at the bottom, that I got from them. I think it was on Friday. And it just talks that they're automatically letting me know now about what's going to happen. And unfortunately, I have seen a few little scams that have come about from people who've said, oh, what's this, Ruth? Make sure you follow government links with things like this. You don't have to sign up for anything. It is automatically added. So I just wanted to give people a little bit of peace of mind, because knowledge is power. So it's about what you know. And I hope that has helped some people who may have been thinking about that recently. So next slide, please, Katie. Protection. I want to briefly touch on this. You know, underpinning absolutely everything that I do as a financial advisor is protection. You don't have it easy with your jobs, you know, veterinary surgeons, nurses. I hear all kinds of stories from people within your industry, having proudly worked with you guys and understanding what goes on in your daily lives. You're at the front of all of the action. But it isn't just about if you get kicked or if you get bitten or something happens. Unfortunately, I was chatting to someone who actually had an accident on the way to work and to a job, and they were out of action for quite a few months because of it. It is vitally important to make sure that you are protected. And there's something called income protection as well. And that policy, it tends to pay out up to 60% of your total income. And let's face it, if it was 100%, then there'd be absolutely no incentive for anyone to go back to work. So it's to make sure that the all important bills are covered. And the reason why I'm mentioning this today is also that an investment, if we say set up an investment or savings plan, if you have income protection in place, it can help it to, you know, to continue, because you will have something to cover bills that's there. So it can help reduce money worries, anxiety that you feel, and it can be as cheap as a cup of coffee a week, depending on medical history and things like that. And I'm sure Katie's put in the chat about some of we do a free protection health check for anyone that wants to just find out more, how much it might cost or something like that, and we can look into that for you. So next slide, please. Savings and investments. Here we go. So why do people have savings and investment plans? It can be for unforeseen circumstances like rainy day, for the future, you know, maybe it's for starting a family, or it could be even for retirement. So looking at pensions. In case you run into financial difficulties through losing your job or becoming too ill to work. I know that with some people that I've chatted to, if they haven't been able to get income protection for whatever reason, then we've looked to put in a savings plan to make sure that their money goes as far as possible, so that when they need it, they have access to it, and it's working hard to grow. To get interest simply on your money, it could be that. Whatever the reasons are for you, that's what advice is all about. I want to come here, really get to know you and understand what it is that you're wanting to achieve, and we can help put a plan in place towards that. Next slide, please. So questions for you. Take a moment to think about these questions, as they are really important. You know, let's take the first question. Why do you want to save? Sounds like a pretty simple question, but have a think now what it is for, as this makes a massive big difference to what savings or investment vehicle is recommended. You can save monthly, or you can do a one-off lump sum payment if you want. Do you need access to this money in the near future? Time frame is super important. Are you prepared to leave it for a while? And if so, for how long? And will investing this money affect your day-to-day standard of living? These are just some of the questions that I want you to ask yourself. There's no right or wrong answer to any of these questions, but it will affect what kind of investment plan that I might want to recommend to you to have a look at or put in place. And you don't also have to save one pot, you know, one pot for everything. You can have lots of different pots for different goals. The main thing is to work out what is important to you, and then we can have a look at putting that in place. So all the answer to these questions will help answer, where can I put my money? and what my options and what does it all mean, and how do I decide what to do? That can help answer that. Next slide, please. So there are lots of different savings accounts, and I want to go through some of them to just educate you guys in case you see them come up, and you can actually understand, well, actually, as I'm going through it, that one's what I want, or that one might be the most appropriate. A savings account is simply an account for you to put money in and earn interest. Okay, let's rewind. Okay, what are interest rates? Let's just look at that first of all. Interest is what you pay for borrowing money and what banks pay you for saving money with them. Interest rates are shown as a percentage of the amount you borrow or save over a year. So if you put £100 into a savings account with a 1% interest rate, you'd have £101 a year later. So savings interest is paid tax-free, and most of you won't pay any tax, on saving over a year. But let's look at the different options, because I had a quick look at the latest rates that are out there at the moment to give you guys a bit of a guide. Now, there is usually no charge to set up a savings account. That's the first thing. So you have what is known as easy access savings. That's top. And there's currently it's offering an interest rate of 1.85%. So that gives you a rough idea of how much you could have. You've got notice savings there, 2.36% for 120 days, or 1.9% for 7 days. And you've got also fixed rates accounts as well. So these are what they say. Fixed rates will give you a fixed rate over a period of time. So for 1 year, it will pay 3.47%. For 2 years, slightly more, 3.71%. For 2 years, and then for 3 years, 3.8%. So offering that little bit more to say thank you for saving a little bit longer. And in case the notice accounts as well, when we say 120 days, you will get 2.36% if you keep that money invested, but you will need to notify them within 120 days if you need that access. So that's to give you a bit of an idea. And then there's at the bottom regular savings accounts. So what are they? The clue is in the name. Most regular savings accounts require you to put money away each month with interest paid yearly, unless it's kind of otherwise stated. They offer higher interest rates than traditional fixed or easy access saving accounts, but they do tend to impose strict terms and conditions, such as limiting the number of withdrawals you might make, or you might have to make a certain deposit every month. So there's just certain things to be aware of for that. Next slide, please.
I was just going to jump in really quickly because we've had an anonymous question that's come through, and I appreciate you might not be able to answer this, but you might be able to signpost. Someone has asked who these rates particularly are with, but I'll throw that one out to you, Ruth, to answer.
Okay, perfect. So the one thing that I will say to you is this is just ones that I've researched. Why I went on a couple of accounts like Money Saving Expert, Money Supermarket, things like that. I went on to find out what the latest rates were. So they're not all with one bank account, they're with different ones. And while obviously it's not something that should we say I can't say a certain bank, for instance, to go with, because I don't know the ins and outs of those offerings or what they have, but it's just ones that I researched and I found to give an idea of what these certain accounts could offer. But definitely have a look at, say, Money Saving Expert or Money Supermarket, one of those, and type in savings accounts, and it will come up with the names of all the banks and the different rates. Like, those are the highest rates that I could find for each of those different accounts, but there are lower ones, lower rates with different providers as well.
Interesting, isn't it, as well? Because we ran a savings and investment session back in February and seeing how different these rates are, even from
massively.
then
It's like
too.
chalk and cheese, Katie, honestly.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it because I updated Lee's slides to have a look, and like the difference of fixed rates accounts are like a good couple of percent. And I was like, about time it starts going back up again. So yeah, it was good to see that it had been a big difference from the last time we ran this.
Definitely, I spotted that one too. Thank you so much for fielding that, and I've had an anonymous thank you come back as well, so thanks Ruth for that one.
Yeah, no problem whatsoever. Of course, love these questions. Keep them coming, please. Keep me on my toes. So thank you. So on to the next one, individual savings accounts. There are lots of different types of individual savings accounts, also known as ISAs, as you can see here. So there's three main ones that I want to kind of focus on. There are others out there, but I don't think anyone on the call needs to worry about the other ones. You've got stocks and shares ISAs, you've got cash ISA, and you've got a lifetime ISA. So ISAs, individual savings accounts, are absolutely fab. They are honestly such a great tool that we can use to make the most of saving and investments. And why? Because we can put money away into them. There is no income tax. There's no capital gains tax that is actually taken off the returns that you can get, and they can provide you with a tax-free income, for instance, when you go to retirement, if that's what you want to do. I know quite a few people that, for instance, will access their pensions when they are able to, and then they will put them into individual savings accounts. Every adult, you have an allowance of £20,000 each tax year. So there is a limit due to the tax advantages associated with them. So this £20,000 limit will reset for you to start saving again into an account if you've maxed out your limit already on the 6th of April each year. So that's the start of the new tax year. Children also have allowances, so you can save if they have any children or something like that, up to £9,000 a year. So you can have easy access cash ISAs, offering usually around the latest rate was 1.85%. You have easy access cash ISAs that let you take out your money when you want without penalty. So a good option if you know you'll be dipping into your savings, or if you're not sure when that might be. Fixed rate cash ISAs. So the clue once again is in the name. It's a fixed rate for you, and I saw one for 3.27%, and that was for 2 years. Fixed rate savings are designed to lock your money away for a set period and offer kind of rate security in return. Yet by law, cash ISAs providers, they must allow you to access your money whenever you want it. But something to note is most will levy kind of heavy penalties on withdrawals. And it can be up to like a year's worth of interest. So just be very careful. Make sure if you're going to lock it away for a period of time that you do not need access to it. And of course, you can always ask me if you want advice on what the best thing to do is. Now, lifetime ISAs, lifetime individual savings accounts. Have any of you on the call heard of this? For those that might not have, I bet you're thinking that is an awfully long time to have an ISA, a lifetime ISA. Well, let me explain. A lifetime ISA, also known as a LISA, can be opened by anyone aged between 18 and 39. You can save up to £4,000 a year in it, and that can be towards your first home or retirement. And the state adds a 25% cash bonus on top, up to £1,000 a year. So you can have, if you put 4,000 in plus 25%, that's of 1,000, so £5,000. You need to have had a LISA open for a year to get the first time buyer bonus. even if you're not sure you'll use it, it's probably worth opening for £1 or something like that. Plus you can earn interest on whatever you save, and as it's an ISA, that interest is tax free. Now remember I said for an ISA you have a limit of £20,000 in a tax year. Well, the money you count towards that. So if you put £4,000 in the ISA in a tax year, on top of which you'll get 25% state bonus, you'll be able to put £16,000 into the other ISAs, because you will have already used £4,000 to put into a lifetime ISA if you maxed it out, leaving you with 16,000. So that's 20,000 minus £4,000. So that will leave you £16,000 to save into another individual savings accounts. Now, hopefully, I know it's a bit late, but hopefully that makes sense. And the bonus that you get doesn't count towards your year's ISA allowance, just so that you know. I'm going to throw it out there, a quick mention to Help to Buy ISAs. Some of you might have them or have heard of them. They closed new accounts to these on the 30th of November 2019. If you've already opened a Help to Buy ISA, you can keep saving into your account until November 2029. So you've got a few years with a further 12 months to claim the government bonus towards your first home. And a Help to Buy ISA, it was a government scheme that was designed to help you save for a mortgage deposit to buy a home. Contribution amounts were slightly different to lifetime ISAs, but they are still out there. So finally, stocks and shares ISAs. I think everyone's going to be sick of me saying ISAs by the end of this. As the name gives it away, an individual savings account that is invested in a spread of stocks and shares, and it's based on your attitude to risk. And so the percentage per year you can get back, depending of course on the amount of risk you want to take, is more. So think of it like this: on the whole, usually the more risk you take, the potential is for more return. Low risk, low return, like current accounts, as you've seen with the percentage rates you sell that I've been going through, they can be quite a low return. So it is kind of like, do you want your money to be completely safe, or do you want to, to potentially look at an investment where it could earn like higher percentage of returns? Now, there is usually a cost for setting up an individual savings account, but you usually only get charged when you set it up, not on withdrawals. There are lots of places where you can get them. Some you manage yourself, and will have cheaper fees, as you will pick up your own attitude to risk for your investment. Or there are ones where you can have, like with me, where I can help manage it for you, and we work out together what your attitude to risk is. But obviously there will be a higher initial charge because I will be managing it for you. And the power of having a BFF, your best financial friend, is to make sure that you have the right investment for your needs. Now, special mention to premium bonds, National Savings and Investments, NS&I. They offer premium bonds, which are a savings account you can put money into and take out when you want as well, where the interest paid is decided by a monthly prize draw. So you can win £1 million to £25 a month. The minimum purchase amount is £25 for a one-off purchase, and the maximum amount that you can hold is about, I think it's £50,000. Got to be over 16 to buy them, and yeah, it's a game of chance, so a lottery. But obviously, because it's done by the National Savings and Investments, a lot of people class it as being very safe, but you might not win, so you might not get anything back. But then again, you might win that, or you might win £1 million. You heard it here, so think of me if you do win the $1 million. Only joking. No. So next slide, please, which should be to talk about inflation.
Yes, I was just quickly going to say we've had a couple of people in the chat saying that they have got lifetime ISAs, and I was just signposting that Ruth, you and I did that session on finances with children in mind. So if you did spot that bit going, oh, children get an allowance, I've put the links. We had a whole chat around junior ISAs, trust funds, what all these things mean. So you can go and catch up with that if you do have children and you want to know a little bit more on that as well. So over to info on inflation.
Yes. So Matt, I mentioned it earlier on, so you can't find me because I have mentioned it. So I'm going to explain a little more. And I think it is so important for everyone on the call to think about this and to know a little bit about it. Have you heard of the term? Has anyone heard of it? It's simply the rate in which prices are rising. So what a basket of goods like bread and milk cost last year to this year. So if the price of a bottle of milk is £1 and it kind of rises by 10 pence, then milk inflation is 10%. Does that make sense? So I don't know about you recently, but I've seen my weekly shop price absolutely skyrocket. And the reason for this, that in the 12 months to August from last year to this year, prices have risen by 9.8% on average. So that was, it makes a difference in your household bills, which is why it's so good to fill in your financial questionnaire, because that if the bills go up again by a couple of percent, can you afford it? Does your disposable income allow you to afford that rise? It's so important that any money as well that you have spare, you consider to put in like some form of savings vehicle, as you can see like on the screen here from the graph. Over a 20-year period, left to the effects of inflation, your money would have lost 35% of its purchasing power. I remember when I first saw this, I nearly fell off my chair because I was like, it was phenomenal. So if you saved £10,000 20 years ago, you'd still have £10,000 in the bank, but the amount that you could buy with your money will have gone down because you'll only have £6,539 like worth of goods to buy. And that's because of the effects of inflation. Now, one of my clients told me she'd accumulated nearly over £30,000 of cash under a mattress, like over more or less the same time period, if not longer. So you can imagine, literally, I did actually, I think I fell off my chair when she told me that. But I did sort her out and I did help her. So please don't just think having cash spare left somewhere in a box or in a tin is going to help. You really need to start thinking about how you can help keep pace with inflation, if not beat it. And the next slide, please, Katie, is all about pensions and retirement. So some of these questions that are on screen is what I have had by clients. It'd be rude for me not to talk about saving for retirement in a savings and investment kind of obviously webinar. So what is a pension? And there is also some other talks that we've done, Katie, isn't there, with VetYou on purely on pensions. I could literally talk till the cows come home on pensions because they're my favorite thing. They're just wonderful kind of investments, but I will stop. A pension scheme is simply, I can see you, Matt, holding your head in your hands. They're amazing. They're fantastic.
Just a pension nerd. Pension nerd.
Yeah, sorry. I know I'm in the right job.
It tickled me. It tickled me.
I get excited about pensions. I do. I think they're great.
I love a good pension too, actually.
Oh, yes. They're really, really good. It's simply a long-term savings plan to help you save money for later life. And they also are a form of investment. There are fantastic tax advantages with them, as the government want to encourage you to save up for it. So how do they work? You save some of your income regularly during your working life into a pension, and this gives you an income in later life when you want to work less or retire. That's the meaning of a pension, kind of security for when you're older. So the 100-year life that you can see on that ladder is something that I always talk about, and we all need to start thinking about and preparing for. So I'm not sure when the majority of you that are on the call were born, But let's take 1987 midway up the ladder. So you can expect to live up to 97 years old if you were born around 2000 and live to 103 years old. You know, technology is advancing. People are living longer. So if you decide to give up work and retire at 65, would you have made sufficient plans to provide an income for another 35 years? So that's why it's really important to start thinking about retirement now. So next slide, please. So how much can you save for like retirement, and how does it work with taxes? One of the best features about using a pension to save for retirement is the tax relief. So when you pay into your pension, some of the money that would have gone to the government as tax goes towards your pension instead. So this can help reduce the amount of tax you pay and give your savings a boost in the future. So the tax relief is given based on the rate of income tax that you pay. So most of you on the call might be basic rate taxpayers, so you might earn less than £50,000. Let's round it just to the £50,000 mark. So you can claim 20% tax relief, as this is how much tax you pay on relevant earnings. Higher rate taxpayers get 40%, and additional rate taxpayers 45%. And if you pay the money into your pension yourself, or if it is taken by your employer from your pay packet, you automatically get 20% tax back from the government as an additional deposit into your pension pot. So if you put it another way, then you can see here that to get £100 put into your pension, a basic rate taxpayer needs to pay in only £80. This is because the taxman adds £20 to your pension pot. And then you can see the other rates as well. Next slide, please, Katie. On the wonderful compound interest. Oh, this is so important. People say to me, should I start early? Does it matter? Can I just save more later? Well, I think this slide explains it. Daisy on the left, she put £200 per month at the age of 25. That's when she started putting that £200 per month in. And she saved, obviously, as you can see here, and she saved £96,000 at that £200 per month. Now, if you look at Ken, he started at the age of 45. So he started a little bit later. He still put the same amount, and he put double the amount of Daisy, so £400 per month into a pension. So he put £96,000 in as well. But if you look at the power of compound interest, because Daisy started sooner, at a very modest 5% growth rate, her pot managed to grow by an additional £210,476 because it had interest added on interest, added on interest, and it kept growing over all those years. Ken's didn't have time to grow that much because he started later. So his additional pension pot only had just over 69,000 in it. Now, which one would you rather be? Daisy or Ken? Because I know which one's going to leave me sipping pina coladas on a beach a bit more. So yeah, I'd 100% like to be Daisy. So that's just to give you an idea of starting a little bit sooner. If obviously you're able to and can afford to. Next slide, please, Katie.
I was just going to say, you know, we've seen this slide so many times on VetYou sessions, and it continually blows my mind every single time. And I wish, if I was seeing this when I was like 22, I wish I'd seen it then, and not like 10 years down the line going, oh, I should probably sort something out about it now. Like, no judgment, like we can start at any point, but if you see this sooner, like, please learn the lesson of looking at what a difference it's made for Daisy, because that is mind-blowing. The same amount of cash, but the difference.
And I can talk from a genuine, being the old man here, I can talk from a genuine position. So I started my pension with £50 a month with my very first veterinary pay packet when I was 23. And I'll openly admit, for the first 15 to 20 years, I was very disappointed because I'd look at my pension statement each year and it hadn't gone up by much more than I'd actually put in. It'd gone up by a little bit more, but not by much more. And clearly there are variances. Some years you get better interest rates than others. I can tell you that when I started to look at the pension, my pension for the last 2 years, I then started to get excited, having seen it now invested for 25 years, just made so much difference. Modest amount in, but definitely the performance for leaving it in so long, I'm starting to pay some of those benefits.
I've got to say, like, I looked at different slides to put into this just to spice it up a little bit. And I couldn't find a better one to explain it, because all the other ones on compound interest, it's all like numbers on spreadsheets, and I just like sends me to sleep. Like, so I was like, this just explains it so much better, of what the power of it can do. So just by starting early, because people go, oh no, it's fine, I'll leave it till later. And then trust me, so many people panic when they're later and come to me and go, I'm so sorry, I should have started this earlier. And, you know, and what do I need to do? And then they've got to start to think about, do I need to save more into it? Do something your future self will thank you for. And this is something that really, that phrase is in so many different aspects of your life, but it really does help to start thinking sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
But yeah, next slide, please, Katie.
Amazing. Thank you. Albert Einstein was correct, as he has been many times. But yes, the most powerful force in the universe, compound interest. Note that one down.
Yeah. So this might be like, what is this? So this is what we call the why investing makes sense chart. So many people come to me and say, when's the right time to invest? The market is so volatile right now. It's all up all over the place. What should I do? So this is a chart, and all I want you to focus on is the shaded blue line that you can see. The little black marks that you can see, they're actually major events that have happened. So you can usually see that after those black lines has been a dip in the market. So this is about, it's not timing of the market, but it is the time spent in the market. So a lot of people go, oh, should I invest now? You know, with everything that happened with Russia and Ukraine, is it the right time? Well, obviously you can see if you started in 1987 with £100,000. Now, this is just as a guide. You can look to the far right hand side, and this goes up to 2020, what you could have had if you'd have just stayed invested, stuck to a time and trusted with what your plan was, how much you could have had. So it is the time that you spend in the market, not the timing of when you put it in. Some of the worst thing that you can do is taking an investment out when the market has just suddenly dipped at the bottom, as you can see near the end with coronavirus. That big dip is coronavirus. And some people panicked and took it out because you're going to miss, thank you, Katie, you're going to miss the rise when it goes back up again. And historically, it always has. That is an upward trajectory. So that's just to give you a bit of peace of mind with it. So next slide, please. Let's go back to the questions. I just want to kind of finish off before we go to more questions by looking at this. So what are the ones left? Who can help me? Where do I start? Well, you're helping yourself right now by listening to this. So be proud of yourself for that. Start looking into what rates banks can give you. I've told you, Money Saving Expert, Money Savings, Money Supermarket, whatever it is, just Google, have a look what's out there, and see what rates you could get, and answer some of the questions I've asked in this. Literally, it's just for you to answer those questions. Fill in the financial questionnaire, please. This is step number 1, because you need to figure out what you've got. And if you want to chat, as your circumstances might be more complex, or maybe you just want to run through a couple of scenarios with me, or think something that you're thinking, I'm more than happy to help and have a confidential chat. And, you know, email into VetYou and they will put you in touch. And I promise you, I'm really friendly. And that, I think, is everything.
Thank you so much, Ruth. Brilliant as ever. I was just quickly popping everything into the chat box if people did want to chat about their individual circumstances. And
Yeah.
I know we had quite a few pre-submitted questions as well, but reflecting back, obviously, what we've spoken about here, so much of it comes down to we might have a chunk of cash and we're trying to decide what to do with it. First of all, looking at filling out the financial questionnaire, have we got that emergency fund in place? Then, like you said, asking ourselves the questions like, how quickly do I need to access this money? Do I have, like you said, the emergency fund in place? Am I saving for something, or is this more of like a longer term investment that I'm going to put there and use that magic of compound interest? So if someone came, say, to you, Ruth, and was like, okay, so I've got my emergency fund in place, done the financial questionnaire, I want to set up something that I'm investing into, like with the stocks and shares ISA on a regular basis. Is there like a minimum amount? Like, is it that you say, oh no, you've got to have X amount of thousands of pounds, or what can they start with?
No, you can start with literally just put £5 spare into something. If you have money that you are able to invest and put to one side, then there is somewhere where you'd be able to put it. The difference between having a financial advisor like myself is that you're paying for active management of it, for someone to look after it for you. And obviously there are charges with that. If there's something that like you want to start more kind of basic, there are other options available as well for you, but you can start with £1, you can start with £5. Whatever it is, you are able to start saving. Just make sure that it is within your affordability. That's what I would say.
Amazing, thank you. And someone's actually just asked a question saying, how do you charge for your services, Ruth? Like, how does that look if someone was working with you and you were managing a fund for them?
Absolutely brilliant question. So yeah, we would go through, obviously the first chat is completely free of charge and complimentary. So we would run through everything in that meeting as well. But on the whole, we charge an initial advice fee. So, and that usually comes out of the investment itself. And then there's an ongoing charge to meet every year to make sure that your circumstances are still, up to date. Your attitude to risk is right. We rebalance investments and we do things like that. So there's an ongoing advice charge, and that's usually about 0.5% of the total investment. But if anyone's interested, I'm very transparent. I can send you the key facts about our services and costs. Straight away.
And I always know from all the feedback that we get from Ruth, and certainly having worked with Ruth too, she's always going to be really transparent at any point. You're not going to be landed with an unexpected bill. And somebody's just put, a couple of questions. Are there any types of accounts that have a varying interest rate? So you could keep up with the current interests? A bit like, I guess, with a mortgage, you've got a variable mortgage rate. Does that exist?
Not as far as I'm aware. Because not as far as, well, you could have a standard bank account that tends to go up and down, and you just get a notification now and again, but it's next to nothing. It's like 0.4% or some of the best ones. The main reason why banks offer a higher interest rate for lending longer is so that they can hold you money for longer. It's for the privilege of of doing that. So I wouldn't say there was a variable one, and I wouldn't probably be recommending something like that, because it could shoot the other way, and that's the last thing you want, is to lock your money away where it was a variable rate.
That makes total sense. And just another question, because I know Matt will have a question as well. I would just put, and this is one that we've definitely covered in our pensions events too, that we signposted in the chat too. Is there a way to collate pensions from working in different jobs and workplace pensions?
100%, yes, you can. You can combine it into one pension. So whether that's your current one, whether it's a separate private pension that you want, there are lots of different ways, but 100% you can put all your pensions into one place.
And that's something you can help people with. There are a variety of different ways of doing that, but that's something you can help with as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We have a wonderful little document called a letter of authority as well that we can send off just to get the details of that pension scheme. Can't do anything with your pension, can't change anything, make any decisions. It just allows us to look at the nitty-gritty detail to see if it would be in your interest to move it. And I can see one on there as well. Would you recommend inheritance goes in savings or property? Is that inheritance that someone that you've received, or inheritance that you're planning, you know, for somebody else to have? I'm just presuming here that it's an inheritance that you've received. Property market at the minute, there's people talking about a property market potential crash coming. They've been talking about it for the past 2 years. I'd be very careful, depending on when that might be. If you're putting it in property, you know, it is putting all your eggs in one basket because it's just one investment. What we tend to do is spread risk to make sure that you're not putting all your eggs in one basket. So we have cash, bonds, which are loans to governments and companies, and they give you a fixed interest. We have stocks and shares, commercial property, gas, oil, timber. There's so many different ways that we diversify to spread that risk. So I would just be careful in putting it all in one place potentially, but I'm more than happy to chat through that, your circumstances, and we can go into it more detail, Dina, if you want.
And Ruth, maybe you could say something about ethical investing at that point as well, because you've mentioned lots of different places you could invest money.
Yeah.
Some of us are really interested in making sure that our investments are only help to support, you know, ethical causes. Could you say a bit about that?
Absolutely. We have a wonderful, I mean, all of our funds that we have a degree of sustainable and responsible investing within them. We have a specific sustainable and responsible equity fund that you can invest a proportion of your, I always call it like your portfolio, but think of your portfolio as like your Premiership League. That's your investment. So your Premiership League, that portfolio, you can have sustainable and responsible equity as part of that, and that fund has done like really, really well. I think even taking into account COVID and what's happened with Russia and Ukraine, I was looking today, it's done over 10% a year for the last 3 years, that specific fund. So it used to be that you had to sacrifice profit to invest sustainably, whereas currently it's the opposite way around. It's done very well, and I can look at someone's preference and we can have a chat about if that's something that they wanted to incorporate into their investments. And you can do that with any savings and investment that you put in place.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Ruth. And I've just signposted in the chat that in March we did a fantastic session that was diving deep into ESG funds and sustainable investments as well. So I'll pop that in the chat. And we've got another question that's come through saying, thank you for the comprehensive introduction. What about investing on the S&P 500 and how reasonable is it at the time being right now?
Yeah, well, that is more specific. Once again, you'd probably need to go to a stockbroker to have a look at that specifically, to go into that. But yeah, you know, it is obviously a great investment to look into, but it's once again putting it all into one place. That's not spreading your risk necessarily. So if that drops, then the whole of it will drop. And if it's in the top kind of 500 companies, you've just got to make sure that, yeah, if it drops, you'll lose a lot. And I've seen that happen with a few people. So be very careful about investing directly. But you'd need a stockbroker specifically to have a look at that.
Yeah.
And oh, sorry.
Yeah, all I was going to say is, from my personal opinion here, you know, if you want to do that sort of investment, by all means, maybe think about some of the more secure ways of investing first and foremost. And then if you happen to be lucky enough to have additional money to invest over and above some of those more traditional saving platforms, then absolutely think about stocks and shares. You will need a stockbroker. If you're looking for a stockbroker at the moment, though, they are all desperate for business because the volatility in the market is so low that they don't have a lot of people investing. So you can drive a good hard bargain on what the fees you might get charged if you're looking to do that at the moment. But, you know, remember, as Ruth says, your money is at risk in terms of the capital as well, because those shares could go down as well as up.
No guarantees, but I couldn't have said it better myself. Thanks, Matt. Thank you.
And just jumping into jargon bust for anyone that has not heard of the S&P 500, I know it might be worth us just covering really briefly just what that is. Is it the Standards and Poor's 500. Is that what S&P stands for? But it's like the top 500 American companies.
Matt,
Is that right?
Exactly. Sorry, apologies. Yeah, exactly that. So it's a combination of the top 500 companies that are listed on that particular exchange, and it's an average of their overall performance. You may have heard of some of the other indexes, which are groups of companies that are put together for an easy way if you want to invest in a group of companies rather than an individual company. You may have, for example, heard of the FTSE 100, which is a group of companies all located or registered in the UK that contribute to that index. So there are lots of different indexes around. The one that a lot of people like, because it has a number of veterinary companies on it, is one called the AIM index. Have a look at AIM. Companies like Animal Care are on there. So if you're interested in investing in companies that you might know of or have heard of or associated with vets, certainly have a look at that index.
And someone's just asked in the chat, do you really need a stockbroker, or could you just use Vanguard instead?
So I'm not too sure on Vanguard specifically on what they offer, but it is, once again, if you're picking it, then they can put the investment in place for you. But that is a lot of risk to put on. But yeah, it's definitely do your research into it before you get involved. That would be my main advice. And look what else is out there. There's lots of different ways that you can invest. Doesn't necessarily have to be through a stockbroker, but yeah, there's different fees with different ways that you do it. Have a look into it. And yeah, like I've said, this is very top level stuff that we're covering today to reach the masses. If there's more in depth that you want to kind of go into, then by all means, let's have a conversation and we can advise you further.
Yeah. And I think
absolutely. With open banking, there are lots of new technologies and apps and websites that allow you to access some of these markets that were more difficult to access previously. On the face of it, they may look attractive because they often charge very low or zero fees for you to put your money into the investments. Just think very, very carefully, though, because some of them charge then quite hefty exit fees once you've made that profit and you want to then pull it out. So always make sure you go in with your eyes wide open and make sure that the type of company that you're working with, for example, may be backed by a larger high street bank, which might give you a little bit more comfort, or at least understand what fees you might be getting yourself into in making those transactions.
Yeah. And I think it's such an important point that you were saying as well, Matt, and Ruth, you covered this all the way through, that everyone is an individual and they've got a different appetite for risk, and making sure that you've got those cushions there as well. If there's absolute spare cash where you think I could completely afford to lose this, and your appetite for risk might be very different. And I think, Ruth, in previous ones, you've told that story. Is it someone from Westlife that took advice from someone at the pub that told him, I'll let you tell it, but it's just a key example of, there's so much, we're constantly bombarded, right, with information online about get rich quick, do this, put your cash here, this is like zero fees, look at this person, they've made this much money by investing in the stock market and they've done it in 2 months and now here they are on a beach somewhere. And I think so much of like that, if it's too good to be true, it's probably too good to be true. But yeah, Ruth, the story of Westlife, I always think that's a good one if you've got that.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the guy's name off the top of my head again, but there's one gentleman in Westlife, and I think it was his brother-in-law said, you know, you've got to invest all your money in property, you can't lose, you know, you invest it all in there, and you know, people, you rent it out, the rent money pays the mortgage, and then so he put all of his money in property. Then there was obviously a crash that happened and he lost everything. He had to declare himself bankrupt, and it was great for Westlife fans because he went back singing, but not so good for the rest of us because he went back singing, but unless if you are a Westlife fan. But yeah, bless him, that wasn't the best thing to do, but that is a great example of not putting all your eggs in one basket.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Ruth, for your time. I'm aware that we have run over a little bit, so I want to make sure that everybody gets their evenings as well. So we'll do a little bit of signposting in a second, but that's been such a fantastic, comprehensive overview of things that we need to consider if we are looking at investing, different options dependent on appetites for risk. And again, just highlighting that real importance of like individualism and looking at individual circumstances, coming to somebody that knows what they're talking about. Like Matt said, making sure that we know the ins and outs so we don't get those nasty surprises where like, oh, it looks so brilliant until I need to pull my cash out or something like that. So again, we've touched on this already. We'd love to see some of you in person at the VSGD Live and Get Set for Vet event. Ruth will be there in person too. She's happy to chat with people. So you've got plenty of opportunity to talk through everything. There's a fantastic program of lots of very relevant topics. And then finally, signposting from VetYou. We have loved having you here with us this evening. Thank you so much for all of your insightful questions. Thank you for asking the direct ones that we've sent as well. Thank you to Ruth and to Matt for all of their wisdom as well and sharing that on the call. You can book in a free call with Ruth. It is completely complimentary. She'll talk through your individual circumstances, make sure that she understands like where you're at, helps you through the financial questionnaire, and then you can make a decision moving forward. Ruth is not going to tell you what to do. She is going to provide you with some options, just like we do with our own clients and people that we work with as well. We've got a session next Tuesday for anyone that is a freelancer or a locum. We've got Gorilla Accounting joining us to answer lots of questions on the tax side of things. And then the month after, Matt and Reese are going to be running a session on contracts, understanding what is essential and what is good practice. So you can sign up to those. We've got those links in our social media and it will go out on the recording as well. So you can check those out. And don't forget to keep an eye out in VSGD careers, because Ruth and I have been covering loads and loads of financial topics in like 15-minute, 20-minute snippets, everything from finances, if you've got children, preparing for buying a house, income protection, savings, investments, critical illness cover, life insurance. Like there is so much that we've covered in there, and we're happy to cover any topics that you'd like us to cover too. So just if you do need to get in touch with us, remember we are always on hello@vetyou.co.uk. If there's anyone that you want introducing to that is finance related, if you're just not sure where to start, drop us an email. You know what? There is no such thing as a stupid question. We're more than happy to help signpost and direct you. We've got a wide and diverse team of directors. We have so many fantastic partners and connections that we can get you looped in with as well. So finally, a huge thank you again to Ruth. Thank you to everybody else for being on here and for your time this evening and for asking such insightful questions. I can see some thanks coming in the chat as well. We'd love to know what your take homes have been. So please do share those in there as well. And we can't wait to see you all in a week's time. If you are a locum or a freelancer and want to come and join us to talk all things freelance finances, and then the month after for us to talk around contracts too. So thank you, Ruth, and thank you, Matt, and thank you everyone for being on here.
And thank you, Katie, for hosting us. Wonderful job.
Yeah. As always.
Oh, you're very kind, everyone. You're most welcome. I always learn something new on these sessions as well. Like we can't hammer home how important these are. So thank you so much. I am going to stop our recording, everybody.